So we have a reefing chart. This takes all the arguments out of if we should be reefing.
But what's a code zero and what's this and what's that? Let's talk about sails. We're carrying this up to 110 degrees apparent, so I'm loving this thing. It's awesome. I've been flying it all day. I could use a beer.
We wanted to touch base on kind of what kind of sails you need in order to sail around the world.
So we're gonna show you all the sails we have on our boat. And we're gonna do this little whiteboard thing. You'll have to let us know how you like this whiteboarding thing, but we kind of think it's cool. We used to be sailing instructors. Whiteboards were how we lived back then. We get all the kids lined up on the benches. Adults had to sit on the benches too. But all we're gonna go over today is what kind of sails we have on Nahoa, what you might want if you're gonna sail around the world, or just go for an extended cruise. So we're talking for cruising, not racing. We are not racing around the world, although every time, that's mine.
Yes, so we're cruising around the world. This is a cruising catamaran. We are short-handed cruise, so there's only two of us. We have rigged up our boat so that it's ready for single-handing.
Yeah, we single-hand at night. Like we single-hand, every time one person's on shift or off shift, we single-hand. Every now and then I get really I get a little bit lazy and I'll wake him up and say, hey dude, I can't get the code zero in. But what's a code zero and what's this and what's that? Let's talk about sails.
Okay, let's get started.
All right.
So,
I took off my sunglasses. I stood up too quickly. So,
to start off with, we're gonna review the different points of sail that we encounter while we're sailing around the world, and we'll talk to the types of sails that we carry on each point of sail and for each wind strength.
We have 4 main sails on this boat. We have a mainsail.
Okay, people know what a mainsail is.
Cut to shot bend. Then we have a genoa. It's our foresail. It's like our jib. It's the smaller sail. In front of that, you'll notice we also have another one that's up there. That is our code zero. It's a bigger version of our genoa. And then we also have a spinnaker now. A big thanks to Precision Sails for our wicked fluorescent orange spinnaker. We love it.
Just sunset time is beautiful, and we pulled out our code zero. It's just basically a huge genoa.
The cruising code zero is an awesome sail to have in your arsenal. We had one before. It wasn't so much a cruising code zero, it was more racy fast and for lighter wind.
The one thing about a code zero is that you need a bowsprit for them. This bowsprit basically just chills out up here all the time unless we're running the spinnaker. If the spinnaker's up, then we have to take this down, we drop it onto the trampoline and pull up the spinnaker because we only have one extra halyard. And then UV cover to keep it up all the time so it doesn't get destroyed. Because typically you're cruising in trade winds, which means it's like 10 to 20 knots. And it really moves the boat, it really moves it. We're just trucking right now, like just flying along.
And this one's, we can carry it into heavier air and we use it so much more, but it works in light wind too. So it's just an all-around better sail and we are so happy with it. Code zero means a lot of different things to different people. So we'll sit down and tell you a bit about what we mean by a code zero.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
Oh, the sun went down. So the question is, when do we use each sail for what wind strength and for what point of sail? Can you answer that?
Yeah, let's do it. The wind always comes from the top of the board. And these are what we call the points of sail. This is close hauled. This is basically sailing upwind. This is a beam reach. It's sailing across the wind. This is a broad reach, sailing at like 120 degrees off the wind. And then we have a run down here, which is dead downwind. So I've color coded our sails. Right now, I've drawn every point of sail on here with a main and a genoa. So if you were sailing a catamaran maybe, downwind around the world, and you only had 2 sails, because a lot of boats, when you buy them, if they're charter especially, they come with 2 sails. They come with a main and genoa. So if you had a main, it would probably be out on one side and your shrouds are back, so it would be out like this, and your genoa would be out on the other side. This is called wing on wing. Now, say you had a code zero. You could, instead of your genoa, if it was appropriate wind strength, pull out your code zero and you'd go faster because it's a bigger sail. Sometimes if you're lazy and you actually are finding that if it's really light wind, the main will like slap and it's terrible and it doesn't stay full because it's too light, you would take down your main and you would just fly the code zero. If you were only gonna have 3 sails to sail around the world, I would probably go with a main, a Genoa, and a Code Zero. And if you're gonna have more than that, get a spinnaker.
Actually, I'm just gonna jump in here. Let me just, let's just cut to the footage of the first time we flew our spinnaker. It was pretty intense, man. Ashley's contemplating what bathing suit to wear. And my hands are shaking because I'm about to fly the drone. So I'm gonna jump in the dinghy, fly the drone after we hoist, and then I'll try and get back on board. And the other problem is, like, you probably can't see it, but there's an island right there, which that's the end of our runway. So we don't have that far. We only have a couple miles to try this out.
I'm gonna change my bathing suit so I have shoulder coverage because I don't want to get sunburned.
All right, let's get the show on the road, man.
Okay.
How are we doing, Ash?
We're doing good. So the way we rig it on our boat is we attach both the sheet and the guy. We have 2 lines. We attach 2 lines to both sides of the spinnaker. This is a symmetrical spinnaker. Most of the time on catamarans, people run ASIMs, but we purposely chose a symmetrical because we like to go dead downwind, and we thought this would be better, and we kind of thought it would be awesome. So we run it off each corner of the bow, and one is a sheet and goes back to a block at the back of the boat, and the other is the guy, and it goes to a block we have attached here at the bow. We blew our last spinnaker up in St. Martin, which is like, I don't know, like 3 years ago we blew it up. Holy smokes, I can't believe it. And we just have a snap shackle here, which is probably a bit heavy, and we might have to switch out. We used to just tie bowlines, but our first time, remember, things might not go so great. We'll see. We've reused our nasty old sock from our last spinnaker, and we're hoping that it all works out. So wish us luck. This is our first try at launching this spinnaker. And we've been working with Precision Sails, and they were so freaking awesome. And they've hooked us up with this spinnaker, which you can't see yet. It will be pretty once it's up. And we don't have any other sails up. So when we fly our spinnaker, especially the symmetrical spinnaker, we take down the main. So it's just straight downwind, mains down. Should be a simple thing. I'm not actually stressed at all, but Ben seems a tiny bit stressed.
Okay, my hands are shaking, and it looks like a squall is coming, just in time. This should be good. This should be really good. I'm gonna go fly the drone as soon as we get it up.
Yeah.
Whoa, 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 huge wind shift, huge wind shift, huge! Major squall coming, big wind shift.
Yeah, we're okay.
All good?
Don't like it when that happens. So we have 2 lines off each corner. One acts as a downhaul and goes straight to the bow, and the other one runs back and is the sheet. So we don't have the pole, we just run a downhaul and then the sheet. Typically the windward side, we run the downhaul, and then on the leeward side, we run just the sheet. And that's what you see here, this is the sheet. And we're running it inside the shrouds, but because we're heated up a little bit, we're at a bit of an angle, 120, it's pushing a bit on outside of the shroud, but there's not a lot of pressure, so it's okay. There's not really any pressure on this. If it started to pick up, we'd probably douse and re-rig it if we were pointing this high, but when it's right dead downwind, the sail actually flies better with the sheets rigged inside the shrouds.
The one thing to note on a catamaran is that your shrouds right here are quite a ways aft of the boat because we don't have a backstay back here. We only have the shrouds that are raked aft. So that means that your mainsail can't come out quite as far because they're gonna hit these shrouds, which means that you're not gonna be as efficient going downwind because your mainsail is not all the way out. So a spinnaker is really nice to have on a sailing catamaran. Really nice. Yeah, look at that thing, it's beautiful.
Very nerve-wracking, there's a lot of bommies, and we're getting really close to the islands, and we're running out of runway, and there's a squall coming. And I want it down now.
Ooh, look at that!
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's douse it.
Put my camera back here, don't lose it.
Oh, it's doing fine. High five to that. Don't leave me hanging. Maybe not the best day to fly the spin and the drone and everything else.
A huge thank you to Precision Sails. This is the most awesome thing we've had in a long time. It's so exciting. The rain's coming. It's tight, we just got it down. It flew amazing. We were doing 4.5 knots with 7 knots of breeze. It's 20 knots now. I mean, we went from 7 to 20 knots and I could see it coming. And I was getting extremely nervous about having the spinnaker up and being alone on the boat. Easier with 2 people. Spinnakers are better with 2. Now let's talk about the Code Zero. The Code Zero is amazing. You can carry it almost close hauled. We carry it to about 60 degrees. So I'll just put 60 degrees up here. It's not quite close hauled, but at about 60 degrees, we can carry the Code Zero. On a beam reach, we definitely use our Code Zero if the wind's not too strong. On a broad reach, we love our Code Zero, except here it can start to flutter. And then on a run, you can also use your Code Zero. So those are the 4 types of sails that we carry on our boat, and that's typically when we'd use them.
Okay, so each sail comes with a certain maximum wind strength. So for example, our spin and our Code Zero come with a maximum wind strength of say 18 knots. 5 to 18 knots is a big range. It totally depends on your point of sail. So if you're going dead downwind, your apparent wind, the wind you feel on your face, is going to be a lot less because you're going with the wind. But typically we stop flying our lighter wind sails in 18 knots of breeze. That's where we shut it down and we go to the main and the Genoa. One thing I want to point out is that once you hit 18 knots of true wind, you typically get gusts up to 21, 22, 23 knots. And those gusts combined with the waves, especially on a catamaran, really cause a lot of impact on the sails, because what happens is you go down a wave, you stop at the bottom of the wave, and the sails load up and they go boom, and then that's where they explode. So that's why we take down our lighter wind sails at 18 knots. So we have a reefing chart, and a reefing chart is basically the true wind speed in knots or force, and then the sail configuration on the other side. This takes all the arguments out of if we should be reefing, because it tells you exactly. We're gonna post a generic chart that you can put in your own kind of diagrams of your different sails and your wind strength. Each boat is going to be different. If you're on a monohull, it's going to be different. If you're on a bigger catamaran, it's going to be different. If you're on a performance catamaran, it's going to be different. These are all things to take into consideration when you're flying certain sails at certain times during the day. That brings up the point too, if you're sailing at night, we will sail a lot more conservatively, because at night things get heated really quickly. You can't see squalls sometimes, you can't wake the other person up fast enough. We furl the Genoa a little bit more. We usually never run the spinnaker at night. The Code Zero, yes, we'll run that because it's on a furler. So this is a conversation you should be having with your sailing partner. If you're sailing with your spouse, which I think a lot of you will be, you should be having a conversation. Maybe we want to sail a little bit more conservatively than this. We'll post this online in the description down below, and we'll post a blank as well for you to fill in, and you can go from there and just start with something. Start with what NAHOA has, and then ramp it up or ramp it down. One thing to note is that if we talk or think about reefing, we reef. That's a really important point. We catch ourselves almost daily in this conversation that me and Ashley have. It's like, should we reef? Should we pull in the Code Zero? Should we douse the spinnaker? Yes, if we're talking about it, yes, we should be doing that. Because what happens is your mind is looking at the numbers, it's like, oh, it's actually only 17 knots, but what happened is a couple minutes ago, there was a gust of 20 knots. If we talk or if we think about reefing, we reef or we take down the spin or the Code Zero. The Genoa is a heavier weight cloth, so we carry that in anything from say 15 knots to 50 knots. And when the wind gets really strong, what we do is we start reefing it by furling it. First we'll furl it to 30%, then 70%, and then 80, 90, 100%, and then bare poles.
But I think we'll be about 60 degrees off the wind, and we fly the Code Zero sometimes in that kind of angle, but only when it's really light. And the wind's actually picking up a little bit. We're getting a little evening breeze here as we come into 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and so we're just gonna pull out the Genoa and play it safe. We don't want to blow up our Code Zero.
You get one of these for free, by the way. If you're a Precision Sails customer, you get a sail tie for free. You can use these for whatever you want, including, you know, getting ready for the next squall.